Here we go. All right. All right. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Andrew Krause. I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America. Wave your hands in front of the screen if you're new here to Inventor Groups of America, or type into the chat, "I'm new," and we can all welcome you. If you don't know where the chat is, just down below, click on the little chat button, and then on the right-hand side, I believe it will show the chat. So type in if you're new. Also type in if you're where you're from, maybe what state, what country. You got people from around the world. So just a brief intro. IGA was co-founded by Madeleine Key and myself. Stephen, raise your hand there, wave your hand there. To teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. And we do a lot of free education. And this is one of those great pieces of free education where you have a fantastic speaker on that's going to bring you up to speed on what he knows. So we have a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. If you're located near one, we highly encourage you to join. So make sure to jump on our website and check that out. We'd love to hear your name and what state and country you're from. So going over to the chat, like I said, and type in what state and country you're from. Please do not disclose anything that is confidential and is not already publicly available. That's stating the obvious. So this meeting is going to be recorded and will be harnessed on our website and our YouTube channel soon as well. But make sure to stick around. There's nothing like attending one live where you can actually ask the speaker some questions. If you have any questions for the speaker, type them into the chat as they come to you. All right, so here we go. Keith Mullin is our speaker today. Keith Mullin knows what is required to become a successful inventor. During his 30 years, he's been developing, he's not 30 years old, but during 30 years, he's been developing his new products. He's signed 23 licensing agreements, very impressive, for his properties. In total, he estimates his creativity has resulted in 18 product lines and 107 individual products, including numerous items for the pet industry. He's filed 30 patent applications and has 19 patents issued in his name as a co-inventor. His products have been sold in leading retailers around the world, including Walmart, Costco, PetSmart, Petco, Target, and Best Buy. Where did he achieve these remarkable creative feats? From his garage and his home office, working together with product development teams, engineers, and clients. Keith Mullin is also a serial entrepreneur who's founded 5 companies, received major national press. He remembers building his first prototype at age 11 called Snow Grips. So I'd like to hear more about that. Using his high school workshop because he wanted to be able to walk uphill on skis. Well, that's kind of cool. He received his first letter of intent for a licensing agreement in his college dorm room. During his successful career in real estate development, Mullin developed and licensed his inventions as a side hustle. During his corporate lunch breaks, he would FedEx sell sheets. That was back before we had email all the time, I'm assuming. Keith can let us know more about that. And prototype samples to potential licensees. When he discovered that real estate development was not his calling, at the same time, the recession of 2007 hit, he decided to devote himself fully to product development and entrepreneurship. We're glad he did. During this meeting, IGA co-founder Madeleine Key and myself right here will interview Keith to learn his tips, tricks, and advice for becoming successful as a creative person. What's his creative process? How does he approach prototyping? What does he do about intellectual property and patents? What are his favorite tools to pitch his ideas? How does he negotiate and win licensing deals? So this is, if it's your goal to license your ideas on new products repeatedly, you really don't want to miss this one, guys. And you're right here, so you're definitely not going to miss it. Stephen, you've known Keith for a while as well as I have, since he was an Inventors student at one point. What do you have to say about Keith?
Well, first of all, that's a very impressive resume. Keith, make sure you raise your hand so everybody can see you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on, everybody. I've got a little bit of a cough today, so I've got somebody else's invention called cough drops, and I'll kind of work through it. But thanks for having me on, and looking forward to fielding questions and kind of help everybody kind of pursue their projects and their properties.
Well, Keith, we want to thank you for spending some time with us because I've known you for a long time. And
yeah,
you've been successful for many, many years. So let's start at the very beginning. All right. what is the background? Are you an engineer? What did you study in college for you to kind of go in this world of inventing?
Yeah, I've always wanted and loved to just have three-dimensional thought. And I love taking three-dimensional thought and turning that into three-dimensional objects, whether that be, from beginning of go-karts or, snow grips or, Legos. I mean, obviously way back then, Tinkertoys, anything. I just love building things. I was like doing that. And I thought my calling was architecture. So I went to University of Colorado Boulder, their School of Environmental Design, majored in architecture, and went through that process, and then discovered that, architects, you really had to be, to really command architecture and to do it well at the scale I was thinking, you had to be like, well, back in those days, Michael Graves or one of the New York Five, and, you'd spend, an entire career working from a big corporate architectural firm from the center of the building to a window seat, and then maybe then you'll be able to design something. I'm like, I didn't really want to, go through that grind of, the architectural career, and so figured, okay, the people who are figuring out the design and actually making things go are the people writing the checks, and that would be the real estate developers and the project managers. So I kind of went that direction, and then started in construction management right out of college. Working for a very large construction management firm, Huey International. They're owned by Balfour Beatty, which built the English Tunnel. So that's kind of the project management and architecture was going to blend together in that firm, and did some really fun projects for them. Really great, amazing opportunity, kind of that I was kind of thrust into right out of college, and it's kind of cut my teeth on how to get really big, large projects done. Then kind of went through that, like I said, construction management, real estate, then eventually went into work for real estate development, and became a development director of Floyd Homes here in San Diego, running their portfolio. And in 2007, it just got to a point where my original start of designing products and environments and things, and where I ended up was I was mostly dealing with lawyers, contractors, bankers, and reading contracts and on Excel spreadsheets all day, because at that level it's bottom line. Our ROI was 12.5%. That was my responsibility, and I would hire architects at that point, and that would be really only like 15% of my day. The rest was trying to assemble a larger real estate project. And I just kind of lost this kind of like, I need to go back to what I really love to do, rather than where I ended up. I thought that it was going to be a different existence, I guess. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to reinvent myself and pivot, and then go back to, product development. And during that 15-year real estate development time, I was, like I said, my side gig was, product development, and, doing things at lunch breaks and weekends. And I take my vacations from corporate, and instead of going to like Hawaii or whatever, I would go out to Javits and go to the toy show. I'd go and do conventions, and I have so much fun. Those were vacations for me, going out into the Javits, the toy show, things like this. It's so much fun.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of people think you have to be trained to do this. So you had kind of a different path. All right, I want to jump in real quickly, because there's a lot of questions I have for you, and I know everybody does too. Looking at the volume, the body of work that you've done, you've come up with a lot of ideas, right? So could you talk a little bit about that creative process? What do you do? How do you start? Do you do it in your room? Do you do it surfing? I know you surf, you live down in Southern California. Where do you do it? And how do you come up with all those ideas?
Well, it kind of, ironically, it's very similar to how I was trained as real estate development, where you're managing many different scopes of work simultaneously in various parallel tracks, multitasking. So I took a system combined with your system, or they're quite frankly more or less quite similar. You start at the beginning and you end at the end of a step of, you come up with the idea, you put in the inventor's notebook. I mean, you and I could both kind of dictate the 10 steps, but you kind of dissect those steps, and then you kind of chart them out. And then you basically, for each project or idea that you have, you're running those individually on your little schedule, and you do that for each project.
But wait a minute, I want to get before that. I know you're great at management. I know you are. But where does that spark of inspiration happen? Does it happen in the shower, in the car, at the beach? I mean, how do you start that process?
Yeah, so you have to listen a lot. You have to, in my case, you have to be in a mental space to receive, shall we say, energy and or vibrations from the ether that's around you. And it's kind of sort of Zen and yoga type of thing, but that is just quite frankly what it is. I mean, you just kind of absorb things that they happen. I mean, that's why I love going to conventions. You can literally feel the energy in the air of everybody doing things, and you can kind of grasp those things and turn those into something. And it's kind of amorphous of how I'm trying to explain it, but I think just clearing your mind and running your life where you're able to do that. So let's just say you're going through a tumultuous, younger days, early 20s, whatever, going through a tumultuous relationship breakup or something like that. I have zero ideas. And so, you have to have some self-management of how you run your life, I think, to kind of clear all of the things that generate noise that would inhibit your ability to kind of accept things that are coming towards you. So, but specifically, I would say I could break them down into maybe 3 or 4 different areas that I kind of focus on. And one of those is really right before you go to sleep. When you're in bed, you're kind of sort of tired, and all that stuff is kind of in your head, just kind of wishing away. I used to have a small little whiteboard, right by my bed. It was actually on the wall, and if I could just have enough energy, I'd come up with an idea, just as you're kind of in almost that dream state, just to get up and just go, ball with something, ball with ring, whatever. So you can think of that concept in the morning. So that's one way I would do it, and you can do that when you wake up as well. So being aware of those quiet times and being aware of how you're thinking. The other is, collaboration or interaction with clients, where you'll meet somebody, you'll be in a meeting, and you just have the energy of people throwing and exchanging ideas, where they're saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a levitating peanut butter spoon or something like that? Or if we had, some type of off the wall sort of thing, but then you take those concepts that they are throwing back around the room, and you then try to compress that into something that actually makes sense. Then the third is really, like I kind of mentioned, going to conventions and networking, and just walking the halls and just absorbing all the energy in those type of environments. And I think the fourth is, just watching, just going to places. I mean, I go to dog parks and just watch and just see what people are doing, or go to, not that I have anymore, but Toys R Us. That's a great place, because not Toys R Us, people used to go there so their kids could, quite frankly, play. I mean, they wouldn't buy stuff; they would just go there and let their kids pull everything out of the boxes and play. And you could watch and see what kids would do, with their playtime. So, just observations, observing things and observing what people are doing. So those are kind of the 4 macro ways that I try to come up with new concepts. That I kind of think about right now. But yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah.
Oh, it does help. Tell us this. Is it important to stay in one industry, or do you jump all around?
Yes and no, right? So it's no doubt, being deep in the industry and having the connections and the networking and the people to talk with at a very, very deep level, who really kind of understand, and directing things 6 months before the news picks up on, or a new direction of the industry, that you can kind of tell is like, oh my gosh, AI is going to be huge in 5 years, or grooming, let's say in pets, is going to be huge in 5 years. And you say, okay, grooming is something I should really focus on. So you'll pick up those little tidbits, in the industry that you're in. That being said, some of the most amazing innovations, I think, some of the prizes, prize innovation awards, will get somebody that has no experience whatsoever, that comes into the industry, and they think of something so different and so I don't say disruptive, but just so different because he's not in the industry.
Okay.
that they come in and say, hey, have you thought about it this way? And that really helps as well, because you're thinking the way that nobody else in the industry is thinking, and maybe you can apply your background, your experience, or your skill sets to a solution that no one's thought of yet. So yeah.
How many ideas do you pitch a year?
Oh, more than 50, less than 300. Yeah.
So quite a few.
Yeah. Quite a few.
So when let's say you're in the pet industry, because we're really going to dive into that particular industry. I know you've been in others. So you come up with this great pet idea. You went to the dog park, you saw something, you were inspired. You're like, hey, I got this great idea. And you start to reach out to those companies in the pet space. Who do you pitch to first, and why? And how many companies do you pitch that idea to within the pet industry?
Yeah, well, to even get to the pitch, I will definitely do a lot of research on the concept first, typically, to really understand the niche or the benefits that product served before I pitch, because I really have to know those. I mean, part of the at least the value add that I hope that I bring to my clients is that I tell them something new that they don't know. And so if I present something that is, you can just Google and say, oh, okay, there's 5 of them, on Amazon, that doesn't come across that great if you haven't done your homework. So let's just assume you go through all your upfront, activities of getting to a point of pitching. At this point, I usually try to be fairly selective as far as the clients I pitch to, just because I have worked with them before. I like working with them. They like working with me. The relationship is pretty easy. Contracts have already, we have 1 or 2 or 3 that are already used. So there really is a lot of negotiation. We already know what it is. And just also their distribution channels and, how many stores they're in, or what's their brand awareness, either on a national or, international level. They have to be, pushing or have a commitment to the product line that can push it to the levels that you have a decent ROI on the project, right? So some projects, it'll be 4 to 5 years from inception to market delivery. So that's a lot of investment and work on my end to get it to that point. So working with a company that may not have larger distribution, or just shall I say is not well financed as somebody else, the volume sales aren't just going to be as big as you need them to be commensurate to what your investment is. So
Even Keith is using a word that we don't normally hear inventors use. They usually say company, or if they're a little more sophisticated, they'll say potential licensee. The inventor's a licensor or the licensee. Keith, and I know you've mentioned this before, Stephen, uses the term client. So Keith, can you tell us why you use the word client? I think that says a lot about your mindset.
Yeah, so it's really a partnership relationship with your licensee or the person you're working with. I mean, it's got to be both parties are helping each other collaboratively to grow. And in if you invent what I would call a platform technology, that's something that can be applicable to many different products. That's something where you're not only coming up with your first product, that then you can use that platform technology or the patents to various different iterations or embodiments or modifications to your product. And most times, well, pretty much every time you sign a license agreement, you don't really know what's going to happen. It just kind of takes on its own life. And then all of a sudden somebody will present it to Target or Costco, and the Costco buyer will say, hey, could you put that in a shower, or something bizarre, like nobody thought about that. Like, I don't know, we can figure it out. Sure, we'll figure it out for the bathroom environment. Costco wants it. So when those things come up and your original concept grows to a point of it's just got legs on its own and starts to grow, you just build relationships with your client, and they have to trust you. You have to trust them to to manage that process, ethically and quite frankly, in a fun way. At the end of the day, it's got to be fun for me. If I'm having fun, I'm going to go surf as Andrew goes or whatever. So I don't know that. So referring to them, just in conversations as, hey, you're my licensee, or, that type of thing, it's just more of a applicable term to the actual relationship that you're going to be having with your licensee as you kind of go forward. Because ideally, you want to do a license with them, and then when they have an idea or they have a problem that's stuck, you want them to call you first. They'll say, hey, we're thinking about this idea. Hey, Keith, do you think you could figure this out, or anybody, or can you work on it with us? And let's go ahead. And in that case, I'm a vendor of theirs at the end of the thing. I hope they, think of me in that as well, like they're valued consultant or contractor. That's how I like to be, not a licensee per se, because
I think what's really interesting, we've heard this before, once you build that relationship, that you're talking about, when you're first starting out, you're reaching out to a lot of companies. But when you start to build relationships and they start to know who you are and you start to have that back and forth, they become a client. So I guess the question is, how many clients do you actually work with during the year in the pet industry? Is it 50? Is it 5?
Yeah, so I would say active clients where I'm, working on projects with, where I'm, perfect. Stephen, how many hours I put in. But I would say at the moment, let's just say 8 clients that I'm, always working on per se. But these are projects that are, there's the work and then it kind of up and down. So there's these constant kind of work components that are very intense. So the challenge is because I still need to service clients to make sure that they're happy and get the product to market. Once the product is done through its first article, the work scope or the things that I'm doing and responsible for kind of start to taper off. And so if my max capacity is probably right now at about 7 to 8 clients. I just don't have any more time in the day. And so but pitching to, gee, I want to do the project and I want to go ahead and start a project with you. Sometimes that, can take, sometimes 16 months. I'll pitch, I'll even, each convention, maybe I'll show them, different ideas for, 3 different conventions. So I'll be maybe pitching them my concepts for, 3 years. And then the third year, like, I finally get this. Let's go ahead and proceed with it. So I'm still pitching all the time. Well, we can back up. At the moment, I'm fine because I'm a little overwhelmed, but normally I would be pitching. Let me go back up. If I'm under, let's say 5 clients, then I would be pitching a lot more just because I'd have a lot more time to do so and quite frankly, capacity to take on more projects. So it's really that balance of kind of getting up to, okay, what's the capacity that I can still do what I need to do and not, still have time to.
Even it sounds like his definition of a client is a company he's currently working on closing a licensing deal with, maybe the earlier stages, or he's already closed a licensing deal with, and he's continuing to help them. Is that your definition of a client? Or like,
well, so in recent years, I've also taken on sourcing. So it's not just here's the prototype and here's the here's the IP package, the asset package that I'm licensing. In some cases, they'll say, hey, we don't know how to manufacture that, or we've never done this type of manufacturing before. What do we do? So in that case, then I would quite frankly put together their supply chain for them. And so that is, shall we say, an added value I'll bring to the table, but it's just, I'll do what has to be done to get the product into the marketplace. Okay. So whatever that may be, if that is, doing, packaging design, that's, finding vendors, if that's doing formulations, testing, inspection, whatever I think there is, sorry, a hole in the project, I'll go ahead and just go do. And they will say, hey, yeah, you go figure out the packaging for us, or go, hey, we need a vendor to do testing inspection. Do you know anybody? Can you figure that out? So it's helping them, and everybody is so busy these days. If you can bring an additional horsepower to the table, that gets them that much more excited to work with you, and you're solving problems for them. It's not like you go to them and say, hey, here's my gadget, what do you think here? Do you want to buy? It's like, well, yeah, here's what I'm bringing to you, and I've got the ability for you to execute. I mean, everybody has a concept, a business plan, or intentions of a project, but if you can't execute, and you can't execute well on time and on budget, then that doesn't obviously go. So that's where it truly is kind of a client relationship where I'm bringing more to the table than just an asset package to license.
Got it. Hey,
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about when do you pitch? How do you pitch? You reach out to them and say, hey, I've got this great idea, or do you wait to a certain time of the year? How do you go about it when you've got this great idea you think is perfect for one of your clients?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of answer those one at a time. So definitely timing. So the buying season of retailers, people need to, I'm sure, know this, but the season for buying, at least I guess first go backwards. Stocking at retailers, you've got your holiday season, you've got your spring season, then your summer season, and it just kind of goes in clockwork every year. So if buyers have just finished their shipping of their spring season, they've closed out their Christmas season, then they're ready now to think about the next season. So let's just say buyers are thinking about spring season for 25. Therefore, they'd be looking at ideas in 24 in the early part of the year. So I like to think like right after Super Bowl is a good time to start pitching. Everyone's done with holidays and New Year's, and everyone's hangovers done or whatever. You're through Super Bowl, and everybody's like, okay, I just blew a bunch of money, did a whole bunch of stuff, and blah blah blah. I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and now I'm ready to get to work and get going. So that normally just kind of happens right after Super Bowl, birds of the bees type of thing, and start building nests, however you want to call it. That is a good time to pitch. And then after right after summer, because they've got the quarters are coming to close, fourth quarter's coming up, it's still going to hit their numbers. They may want to put in one more project right before the year closes out. They may have a budget in a great situation that they haven't spent through yet. They're like, okay, yeah, we can use this money for R&D and move a project forward. So those are kind of the two segments. And ironically, those are kind of mostly the two segments of when conventions are. Steve, you kind of know this. That's where there's a big push of conventions at the beginning of the year, and then it kind of lows off a little bit, and then there's another push, pretty much end of summer, into the fall. There's another bunch of conventions at that time.
So you pitch at conventions, set up.
Yeah. So there's a timing issue. Then how I pitch is, yes, for current clients, if I have an idea that's appropriate for them, I'll give them a set up a meeting. Mostly do it by Zoom or Teams, whatever the platform is, and do it just like this, video conferencing. And then in others, I'll go out to the conventions and pitch to them. Set a meeting. You have to, in the best case scenario, you can contact them before the convention, set up a meeting time, confirm with them the meeting. They're very busy, so maybe you have 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of time. So you need to kind of slot that in with them. Yes, you can go into conventions and start a conversation, but they're more than likely not going to look at your concepts right there. And you probably wouldn't want to do that anyway. Just be like, hey, how's it going? Hey, do you want to look at this? Or it doesn't really need to build things a little bit and go email, do the tennis back and forth on just building the relationship, and then present later to them, or maybe the next year, at the convention, do it that way. So it's a combination. So for clients that I have relationships with, I'll call them on the phone and get a meeting done. And other situations, I'll pitch at conventions and go through that.
Keith,
I want to show
Celeste
this one.
is Stephen, I was going to show some products when you're ready.
Yeah, I want to show this one product that you really are a material expert with this one Bionic. Andrew, can you show this one particular product line?
If it's on the, yeah. There you go. You see
Yeah, so
that?
this is called Bionic. And I was working with the engineering team. We started back in, I think the actual concept for Bionic was back in 2006. When I kind of came up with it, I wanted to be the strongest and most durable chew toy ever. And so worked with a group of engineers to kind of put together a material that took about 4 years to develop. 4 years. And then we had the material all done and figured out, and we're testing it. It was amazing testing. And then about to launch it, and the tsunami in Japan took out one of the formulation houses that made a component of bionic rubber. So we had to, so we couldn't get a part of it. And then we had to restart and figure out a new way to make the bionic rubber and continue with it. But yeah, Bionic, it's basically a thermoplastic elastomer, or TPE, and basically just took that new TPE compound and put it into different shapes. It bite tests up to over 450 psi. It's incredibly strong. The molecule is kind of like a nest, if you will, where you've got interlinking, cross-linking molecular chains they kind of flex and bend when you chew, but they don't crack and burst. So as it's flexing and kind of moving around, it just kind of bends out of the way of a tooth form. And then that's sort of how it works. And then it also have a patent on the line, what I call defensive geometry, where it kind of works like an M1 tank, right? So it's designed specifically to disperse incoming rounds and energy around kind of the tank shapes. And that's the way Bionic works as well. So it's kind of a combination of the rubber formula and how the shapes are put together and designed. Really fun product. Mm-hmm.
This here is a new product of yours.
Yes.
Well, first of all, how long has Bionic been selling? Because it's been around for a while, right?
Yeah, since 2010.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Yeah. What about this new one here? This was just launched, didn't it?
Yeah, it's called Jolly Dipper. And basically, it's we're messing around. You can kind of look in here. It's a little mortar and pestle, and it uses the flex of the rubber to actually make it work. So kind of like nom 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 nom. So you've got this little bowl shape in here, and you can put the fill and treat, which is a peanut butter paste, and you fill the bowl down inside there. And then as you flex it, and the dog flexes it, it'll splatter all on the inside. And so the dog will have a really hard time to get the peanut butter paste out of there. And so this is a redirected chewing toy, or an occupy toy, where the dog will be really busy trying to get all the peanut butter out of the inside of this ball. So he doesn't have destructive chewing behaviors and separation anxiety and all those other type of things. So it's it's a really fun item.
But this product has taken a long time to launch.
Yeah, so the it originally started off, this had many iterations. And it really came down to how to mold this, because it originally was a couple different parts that made this sphere work, and it was really complicated. Then at one point we talked with an engineer and said, okay, let's make it out of one part. Instead of, it was actually 6 parts at one point. It was the original prototype. I have them over here. No, I guess I don't. Yeah, I'm looking at my prototype board over here. It was like 6 parts to begin with, and so the cost of goods to make this was just off kilter. But when it was understood of how to make this, you have to imagine how difficult that is on an injection mold to do all these undercuts. How do you make a bowl out of it? That's really hard. But it's a very complicated mold that does this. But your cycle time at the factory is very quick. And you can crank out a lot of these in an 8-hour shift, and that gets your cost of goods quite low. And that's really what kind of that was the final pin to drop to get this with a licensee say, yeah, this makes sense. It now pencils out. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one question, then I want to open it up, Andrew, because I could go on and on and on forever about this, but I want everybody to have a chance to ask questions. If there's one thing you are a master at, and I haven't seen this with a lot of inventors, but for some reason you have got this dialed down. You create not only a product, but sometimes you create a whole product line.
Yeah, so I think I learned that. There was a toy agent I used to work with. I don't know if he's on here, but he was actually a master at this, and I kind of learned from him of excuse me, you really want to develop. Well, I watched him take a very simple idea and make it into a bunch of different ideas using the same platform technology. And you'd be surprised at what a platform technology could be. I mean, in your case, it was a guitar pick. Your platform technology was a guitar pick. Like, okay, yeah, but you can make a guitar pick out of a devil's head, out of a Disney head, out of a robot, out of whatever. I mean, was your platform technology that's applicable to all different formats and iterations and modifications of the concept. So that's what in a best case scenario of inventing or licensing is you truly have you can think about things where like, oh yeah, we could put this on a balloon, it'll fly away or something like that. Things that are, and you won't know those at the very beginning. You just won't. And then somebody will say, hey, have you thought about, like I said, putting on a balloon or putting in the shower? Have you thought about doing this with that? And then really kind of pushing the envelope of what that is. I try to say, okay, yeah, this is cool. It is what it is. And, it's just a little thing or a little gadget, or whatever. It's a paper clip, but hey, what else can we do with that? And really, really kind of, just kind of make that product funnel larger and larger and larger. Because the more products you have that, under Bionic, and you have all these different SKUs, that is where you start to turn your product into a brand. And as a brand, should be your goal, is that your brand that you're building ends up being an evergreen brand. And that's, in the best case scenarios, what you're trying to do.
Stephen, it sounds like what he's saying is a good percentage of the time, the product is going to change. I think a lot of inventors, they've been thinking about something for a long time, Keith. It comes fixed in their mind as to what it is, and they have an inflexibility. And I think Stephen, what he's saying is you got to be flexible and be willing to change. Is that what you're saying, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, just how little something you have to dial it, just a couple clicks to the left or the right for it to just explode. It's almost the mindset of back in real estate. It's called location, location, location. You could have an ice cream store, but if that ice cream store is, 2 blocks away from the beach and behind the laundromat, you're going nowhere. All you needed to do is bring it forward and one step closer to the beach, which is quite frankly nothing. And all of a sudden, it's just went out the door. So it's that same type of thing. If it's just not working and you're working too hard at it, it's not going, the idea is still sound. No doubt, it's still sound, but you need to just tweak it a bit more or find another industry for it even. Maybe that you haven't thought about. And that's, kind of pressing that and just getting on the whiteboard and just thinking of all different ideas with that basic concept that you've already got. You can't, the problem is a lot of people just fall in love with their basic form, and they're not flexible. They're like, oh, it has to be this way, it's got to be that way, it's got to be this way. And it never works like that. I've never seen a project work like that.
Yeah, I like that he said you pushing the boundaries. And by doing that, you're building a line. And by building a line, you're building a brand. And that brand, it can increase your revenue. You have a whole product line. I mean, it's one SKU is great, but can you imagine having 20? It's just kind of taking one thing and just going, all right, where else can we go with this? You guys, I want to open it up.
Real quick, just on that aspect, think about it this way. Let's say the Wright brothers said, okay, here's the airplane, and this is the way it's going to be. There's no other iterations to it. This is it. This is our product. No one's going to do anything to it. We'd all be flying around in like lawn chairs right now. Okay. I mean,
That's great. I love that.
you have to think bigger than what your original invention is.
Stephen, that's amazing. I think it's incredible advice. Do you want me to do the first question, Stephen? Then you can do.
Please, Andrew.
Trishona says, really enjoying the conversation. Question for Mr. Mullin. You're Mr. Mullin now, Keith. Very formal.
Call me Keith.
What did your prototype look like? Did you ever pitch with a semi-finished prototype, or were they always complete and working prototypes?
So, I mean, I started prototyping, a long time ago where there wasn't 3D printing. I mean, I literally would have to walk through the aisles of Home Depot and just look for shapes that I'm looking for and cut them out of stuff. I mean, the Home Depot guys were just driving, they just thought I was nuts. And like, I'm looking for this and does that. I'm like, well, so, I mean, some of my prototypes were more glue and tape than an actual product, to be sad to say. So the answer is, if you can demonstrate it working, however you do that, whether it's with rubber bands, tape, and cardboard, just to show the idea. I mean, I've done some in tinfoil, like, here it is, I mean, and paint them sometimes. Or clay, modeling clay from Michael's, that's great stuff. They've got some great modeling clay. There's some plastics that you can heat up and form it into your own stuff. So you don't have to, do CAD work and put all, you can literally go to Michael's and build your own plastic prototypes really easily and way easier than it used to be. I used to use Bondo and take Bondo and squish it and mold, carve Bondo into toys and stuff. So, now, yes, I try to do it as professionally as I can, but, learning the process, I would do some very, very rudimentary prototypes. And in some cases, I wouldn't even do prototypes. I would do digital drawings instead. But they have to be really good, but you can do that these days.
Thank you, Keith. Stephen, you got one you picked from the chat?
Well, there's so many of these.
Yeah, we can't answer them all, guys, but we're
okay. Let's talk about intellectual property. Important, not important. Where are you with that?
Definitely important, but not for the reasons that most people think that they are. People say, "Oh, I have an idea and it's great," and everyone says, "Okay, go run and get a patent," and that type of thing, and spending a lot of money, and the patent may not be right, or you may get approved for something that's not your invention. As Steve, as you've taught, you can file your own patent. I think it's $135 now to write it yourself. There's many different tools you can use to write that. I mean, obviously ChatGPT pretty much things get a lot easier, write myself a patent for a new whatever. And file your pending patent. You can do that on your own. You could learn IP and learn patent writing. It's a great thing to do. It's just part of the process. It's kind of like, well, if you want to go roller skating, you got to learn how to roll wheels or something like that. I think at least writing a patent is a good thing to do. And you file it. So when you get the licensing stage and having a pending patent, in those discussions, it's always just a check the box thing. Because their lawyers are going to have to look at it, and lawyers will say, first goes, well, it's patented, like, of course it is, type of thing. It's more of a check the box and, having something to return when the question comes. But in reality, having the product coming to market and having the IP exactly equaling the product is really hard to do, with one patent. So, for one product, you may have, well, in some cases, 3 or 4 patents. And Steve, you know this. I mean, you have many, many multi-layered patents. It's called a patent thicket. Those end up being very expensive and take a lot of time. But there's no sense in investing in that level of IP protection unless the product sales can demonstrate that that investment is warranted. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of patents. Yeah, it's nice, it's impressive. Is that the value in what I do? I don't really think so. It's more of, it's just part of the process and the thing that you have to learn and a box you have to check to play the game. It's an entry fee. There you go. It's a ticket. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
if you're going to reach out to, let's say, a new company that you don't have a relationship with,
Mhm.
how would you do it? Would you go through LinkedIn? Would you wait to go to a trade show, or would you just pick up the phone and call their 800 number?
LinkedIn would be good. I mean, you've always kind of taught, and I still totally agree. You try and find the marketing lead. You want to try to find a person that likes to sell stuff, because his job is he's got a meeting coming up with Walmart, Target, whatever, in January. And he's like, what am I going to present? What's the new and coolest thing? So of course he wants to know what the new and coolest thing is, and hopefully you've got it. So he's motivated to listen to you. Sometimes the guys in the R&D department, or the new product department, yes, they're good, they know what they're doing, and they're some incredibly talented people, but they're so busy cranking on their own projects that they've got tasked to deliver by a certain date on a certain time, and they got all the numbers running around their head. They won't have the bandwidth most of the times to take your call and or to listen to what you have to say. Yeah, trying to find the marketing lead and or somebody who's receptive to new ideas, I think is really, and that comes from all different levels of a company, but it's really more the personality type. You're looking for another person like you're looking for a popcorn head. So if you can find another popcorn head, and you'll look kind of, you'll figure out who those are. That's who you try to want to talk to, because to get a license signed, you have to look at it from the corporation's perspective and what they do in a larger corporate environment. They sit down at their boardroom, in theory, or on the internet or whatever, and you have to have somebody in the room who's going to sell your product for you when you're not there. And you have to give them the tools to do that. So that's I guess one of the components on the keys to, I guess, what I've done is I give my contact and the person pitching my idea in-house the tools that he needs to be successful in selling my product at the board level.
I love it.
And I'll do detailed schedules. I'll do pricing schedules. I'll do cost modeling. I'll do, entire Gantt charts, wireframes. Stuff that they don't even do. They're like, oh my God, where'd this guy come from? With the F. Sorry. But yeah, that bring them stuff that's impressive to show at a board meeting.
I want to step back for just a minute and explain to everybody, when you're first starting out, you're at this one level, right? Keith is at another level. Okay. So just so we understand that for a minute. And that other level that he's talking about is building good relationships with companies. They become clients, having a good working relationship, seeing what they want, but also the value add. That value add, when you're working with the company, that could be manufacturing knowledge, material knowledge, supply chain knowledge, helping that person do their job and be an asset. That's what that next level of being a professional inventor. Is that correct, Keith, from that assumption?
It's just like when you take your car to get serviced and you pick it up and it's done, it's going to have it's not done right. The tires aren't inflated. The car's on, you're like, am I taking it back here? They charge you too much. I don't think so. But if you pick up your car and the guy's like, you know what? I had an extra 10 minutes. I went ahead and changed the filter for you. I'm not charging for it. And I went ahead and vacuumed out your car. And I just took it down to the car wash for you. Now it's nice and clean. That is the mechanic you want to go to, and you will go there for the next 5 or 6 years, forever. That's the type of person you want to be as a licensee. You want to, they want to, when you do a deal with them, they're like, oh my gosh, that was such a good experience. And I got X, Y, and Z that I wasn't expecting. It's under promise and over deliver is what I like to do. Because then if I'm over delivering to somebody, then then I feel that I've got enough worth to give them a call again. I want my clients to feel comfortable and that I bring something of value to them. And if they're calling back and saying, hey, we like that last project, you really over delivered on that. Can you do it again? I'm like, yeah, let's do it again.
What would you tell yourself if you're just starting out?
Get on a fishing boat in Tahiti and just go. Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. What would I tell myself if I was just starting? It's a totally, honestly, a totally new way, but the ability now to get prototypes done, to get prototypes printed, to hire people on, you know, I'm working with a gentleman in Morocco right now. He is one of the best designers I've ever contracted with, and he's doing amazing stuff. Also, ironically, I'm working with a 3D CAD group in Kiev, in Ukraine. In the last place you'd think you'd find somebody, and these guys are amazing. You can find people out there, if you look, who are incredibly talented, who are very reasonably priced, where you can get scopes of work done that you couldn't even understand that you personally could get done. And you just put it out there on the internet, and somebody will come to your aid, and you're like, that's what this is, and they'll go and they'll do it. And then you can then take that 3D prototype and print it out on any of the print farms and get your part back where it's ready to go. So I would tell myself, reach out to service providers, if you want to call them that, or consultants or contractors that you can hire on the internet that live anywhere on the planet, you know, that you can use and leverage to make your product look amazing and deliver and provide those deliverables that are, you know, amazing to do. I would have done that a lot earlier. I want to say I would subcontract out a lot of the work I was trying to do myself. So instead of like, you know, gluing stuff together and trying to figure out how to, you know, make Bondo, you know, work with a, you know, a new Nerf gun, you know, prototype thing, I should have just, you know, well, didn't have the internet back then really the way they did, but yeah, I would have subbed out some of that stuff out before to somebody who really knew how to do, okay, what's the gearing ratio, you know, of, you know, spinning gear that you want at a certain RPM, you know, those type of things. I would have, you know, worked with other people, but I would have brought other people in the fold quicker.
I got a question for you, Keith. It's a very broad question, but I think it's an important question. Why do you like licensing? What do you like about it? And then also, what don't you like about it? Let's be honest. It's not all.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I like about it is, and I, you know, Steve can know this, I really enjoy, you know, working on my own. You know, I really like it. I like to do and have the freedom to kind of think and do things the way that I kind of, you know, invent and just kind of run my life, quite frankly. That being said, I put way more hours than I do now than any other job I used to do. So it's kind of like, whatever. But what do I like about licensing? Every day is different, you know, because there's so many projects and there's so many different things you can be doing. Every day is kind of, quite frankly, kind of new and exciting, which is super fun.
How about finances? Like, do you like that the finances is on them, not on you? Do you not like that you lose some control? They decide to make it a different color, a slightly different design. What are the positive negatives in other areas?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the other, you know, positives are, yeah, that's right. So, you know, taking a product, we're going to back up. Since I have such a volume of products and concepts that I want to, quite frankly, get out there and make, the company, I just don't, to form a company that to do that, I don't think you could do that. I just don't think it could happen. So I like it because I get to do what I am really good at. That's the front end inception to first product article at the factory. That's my kind of sweet spot. So that's why licensing works really well. You know, going past that, you know, financing, banking, you know, first round A, Series A, Series B, and, you know, investors and boards and insurance forms and driver's license. Oh, bleh. You know, I don't like doing that stuff. I don't know who does, but that's just not what I'm really good at. As far as what I don't like about it, it would be, I guess, you know, losing control and, you know, maybe when a licensee doesn't love the project or doesn't understand it as much as I do, because these are, quite frankly, and you know, these whole little kids are out there in the world, and you know, take care of them. You know, it's like, well, you know, you send your kid over to somebody's house and he gets beat up and he comes back. It's like, dude, you know, you can't come over to play anymore. Come to your place. I mean, this is a project a while ago. I don't bring that one up. Yeah, it's yellow and it's been so long. So this one was just a super quick example. This is over at Swimways. It was over at long time ago. The packaging's yellow, it's so old. But, you know, put this together. It's basically a concussion rocket. It goes in the pool. You put a foam rocket in a tip and you kind of slam it and it compresses the water. There's an interior kind of baffling system that shoots it up in the air. It goes like 30 feet in the air. It's hilarious. It's super fun. You know, all the kids I was prototyping with it, they loved it, you know, go over the roof and stuff. But the licensee basically didn't make the foam darts the right diameter of the stem. So they put the foam dart on there and it wouldn't launch. It wouldn't launch at all. So you know, things where, and they didn't want to fix it. And so it got into Toys R Us and it lasted a season and, you know, that was that. And so that was 2, maybe 3 years of work that just went poof. So, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to fix the diameter of, you know, of that particular product. So it's literally just been collecting dust for 10 years. So I would say that that is unfortunate. You know, it happens. It's happened on more than one product where the licensee just doesn't go forward with the project in the way that you would hope they would have.
Hey, Andrew, we're coming up to the end. What I'd like to do is, if everybody would put their thank yous in the column or in the chat box, we'd really appreciate it. Keith, we really want to thank you for spending time with us.
Yeah, I hope I answered all the questions. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I don't even know what I said, but cool.
Well, I've known you for quite a few years now, and you're a very giving individual. So thank you so much for doing this for us.
I want to make sure to get a group shot, Stephen. So can we do that?
Yeah, no, look, we need to get one for the photo album. And we had a
Yeah.
great group today. In fact, I have to say, this is probably one of the biggest crowds we've had in a while. So Keith, thank you for bringing everybody together today from all over the world, actually. So thank you very much for doing that.
So here's how we're going to do the group shot. You can, your pick, you can wave your hand or give a thumbs up, one of those two. Just keep doing that for about 10, 15 seconds. I'm going to each screen. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. And then after each screen, it's not going to be that long. There we go. Do another one. Another one. Okay, we're good. I got it. Thank you, guys.
Hey, one last thing, Keith.
Yes.
How important is it to go to your local inventors group? Because we're here, Andrew and I have been supporting the inventing community for many, many years. That's how I met Andrew. And that's how we've kind of connected too at times with the local San Diego Inventors group. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, you have to network. No question. You know, network and find like individuals like yourself, and they'll give you kind of tips, and you can just chew on the fat with them. I mean, the challenge, you know, being a single inventor is you just don't have a water cooler or, you know, or a coffee pot with other inventors like, hey, Bill, what are you working on today? Well, I'm doing this. You know, you don't have that. You know, you don't have that type of interaction, and that's where networking happens. And then you find out that, okay, I can do this. You know, if not if that guy's doing it, I can do better type of thing. But like, there's other people out there having as much fun as I am having, that we can all, you know, kind of, you know, the boats ride with a high tide. You know, that's what you need to get out and get some support of what you're doing. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, Keith, you're a pro. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with your fellow inventors your life experience. I think they all realize it's more about just than the product, but the organization and the drive. But if you truly enjoy it, which you do some stuff you don't enjoy, but you definitely don't need to do as much stuff as if you sold it yourself. So that's why you like the licensing business model. And just thank you for just being really straight with it and telling your story and inspiring everybody. I don't know, if somebody's not walking away inspired from listening to you, I don't know, something's wrong with that many products licensed. I don't know if some of you showed up late, licensed a lot of products, really dedicated. I don't have anything else to say, Stephen, besides that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I see a lot of friends today from all over the world. And keep on inventing. That's what Andrew always says. Learn as much as you can. Keep educating yourself. Please tell anybody about IGA. We do this once a month. And I just want to tell everybody have a great week. And thank you, Keith and Andrew.
And if you joined late,
really appreciate it.
Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
I just want to thank everybody for showing up, and I hope that you found the time valuable. Thank you so much.
You can check out the replay tomorrow or the next day on our YouTube channel too, if you join late. So don't worry about that. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.